Trust is the key to everything in life and in business. And trust is something that you build up over time, but there are ways in which you can increase the level of trust that a person has within you based upon the kinds of marketing that you invest in. Today we're going to crack the code on why some marketing feels trustworthy and some feels, well, maybe a bit dodgy, even when it's perfectly legitimate. We'll even talk about some of the ways in which certain things have an innate way of increasing trust, while other kinds of marketing takes a lot longer and doesn't build up that same kind of trust. Now, you might think of this process as kind of a funnel, where you've got awareness at the top, kind of trust in the middle, and purchase at the bottom. Many people talk about how people need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you in order to buy from you. I really think that trust is the one that is key, because I've done business with people that I don't particularly like, or even don't really know all that well, but I learn how to trust them based on social proof or other kinds of things. That's why trust, I think, is most important in this particular process. Marketing is the way that you get awareness of who you are, what you offer, and the ways that you can help other people. Marketing is also one of the first places where you start to build trust with somebody. Now, in reality, there's actually 3 parts to this trust that you need to have, or that someone needs to have in you before they'll be able to purchase from you. The first level is they need to be able to trust you. They need to trust that you, as a salesperson or whoever it is that is dealing with them, is telling them the truth and is going to be honest with them. This means you have to be really upfront about what you can and can't do, about the ways in which this particular product might help them. It also helps to build trust if you ask a whole bunch of questions about them to show that you're interested. And it's not just to show that you're interested, but it's actually to develop a way in which you can understand what their problems are so that you can figure out whether your product is suitable for them, or if you have a bunch of different products, which product would work for you. So they need to be able to trust you. The second thing, they need to be able to trust the product. So when you suggest or recommend a product to them, they need to be able to trust that that particular product is going to solve the problem that they have come to you with. And as we've talked about earlier, or in other kinds of videos, the trust that they need to solve a particular problem, that problem isn't just a surface level kind of a functional thing, it's usually something that's underneath it. They don't need necessarily a tech solution. They need what that tech solution will give to them. So it might be more efficiency or streamlined services or less breakdowns, whatever that looks like. They need to trust that your product is going to solve that deeper issue. The third piece that they need to trust is the manufacturer itself. So they need to be able to trust that the product you are presenting is going to be of the kinds of quality that you say it is. I'll give you an example. I've had lots of motorcycles over the course of my life, and right now I actually don't have one, and so I'm kind of thinking about maybe purchasing one. While I'm doing so, I've been researching all kinds of different motorcycles, and I ran across a friend who had a bike that I'd never heard of that's actually of a Chinese manufacturer. Now, he bought it from a local dealer, a dealer that I actually trust, but I'm not really sure about the manufacturing process or whether that company is going to be around in a while. I've heard a whole lot of stories, not necessarily about this manufacturer, but a lot of stories about things that come out of particular places that, well, the companies disappear overnight and they won't stand by their products. And so maybe I'm wondering if there's going to be parts available in the future, or is this a one-off kind of a thing? And so it makes me less likely or more unlikely to purchase that particular thing. Now, I've also noticed that there's actually a trust hierarchy in the different kinds of marketing channels or the ways that you can build awareness. Some marketing channels build massive amounts of trust, and others build awareness but very little trust. And I'm not sure that businesses really understand this. At the top is face-to-face conversation. Now, this makes sense, right? We have understood over our lifetimes that there's ways in which we read facial expressions or body language and tone of voice. It's our gold standard. It's the way that people can really check in with you and learn to trust you. The next, I think, might be phone calls. This might be surprising to you, but there's something psychologically intimate about voice-only conversation. There's no distractions, just pure just pure dialogue. And when you really need to have a serious conversation with someone, you still call them, don't you? Then I think there might be video calls, real-time, two-way interaction. You get the visual cues plus the personal interaction, but since it happens on a computer, I think it's a little less intimate than just having a phone call. Now, there's a second tier to all of these, and I think that first tier is pretty much the same, although face-to-face definitely beats all of those. The second tier are things like personal messages, email, LinkedIn, direct messages, direct personal communication. But they have to be genuinely personal. We can spot templates from a mile away. But then we get to something that some businesses overlook: physical materials. Business cards, brochures, proper letterhead. There's something about tangible objects that signals permanence. It costs real money to print something, and it can't just disappear overnight. And so this signals a level of trust to your customers. And then the third tier, kind of that bottom tier in terms of awareness that builds trust, is where we get into content territory. Podcasts and audio content punch above their weight for trust building because there's something wonderfully intimate, again, about listening to someone and having someone talking directly into your ears every week, or learning to kind of connect with a person. Sometimes people that have these professional podcasts notice that other people think they know them even though they've never met them before. And that knowing helps to develop some trust. The next one down might be kind of authentic video content. And I stress authentic. The slightly rough video, like many of these are, often builds more trust than kind of the slick, professionally produced corporate video. You might get more views on the others, but our brains have learned to be suspicious of anything too polished. I think this is only going to become more true as time moves on and more things are produced by AI, because the interruptions or the mistakes that we make signal that there's a human behind it, and that signals trust. Now, you might land kind of email newsletters here as well. These are things that constantly deliver value over time. But if you notice the pattern here, in this particular tier, it's about consistency and relationship building. This is content that is being produced and provided for other people to help solve their problems without real expectation in return. That builds trust. Now, at the bottom, I think, is all the stuff that we traditionally think of as marketing. Print ads, radio spots, TV commercials, social media advertising. These are great for awareness, but they're essentially trust deficit spending. You're paying to kind of interrupt people, and none of us really like to be interrupted. If there's ways in which you can offer value in the middle of all of those pieces, well, that's fantastic. And advertising will help. It's not saying that you shouldn't do these kinds of things, but I think we should actually lean a little bit more toward those trust-building marketing awareness channels and a little bit less towards some of these others. For small businesses, this can actually be kind of liberating. You can't afford the charm offensive. You haven't got the budget for celebrity endorsements, but you can absolutely afford to do what you say you'll do when you said you'd do it, and for a fair price. And then you can be there for the people to come back to you when it works out well for them, or even when it doesn't, to either help solve the problem or to show them and recommend the next thing that might help some problems. So how do you use this? Well, first, you got to stop thinking it's either or, that we either do these particular kinds of things or we do these particular things. You can use Facebook ads to create awareness and Google ads to capture intent, but also use the high trust channels to actually convert and retain people. Map your customer journey through this kind of trust ladder. Think about the ways in which you get their attention, and then you build a sense of community and connection with them. Social media advertising might get their attention. Your website might give them information. But that phone call or that face-to-face meeting or that piece of literature that they pick up that is given to them, those kinds of things build trust. And then that follow-up email or that handwritten thank you note that you throw in the box when you deliver something, that's what turns them into repeat customers. Now, I think there's three kinds of principles to remember in this. Trust, the way in which somebody trusts you, correlates with effort and intentionality. The more effort something seems to have taken somebody else, the more trustworthy it feels. Personal beats broadcast. It's better to have 100 people who hear from you every week than 10,000 who sees you once. And third, consistency compounds over time. Trust builds through tiny, repeated signals over time as people get to know you, get to know your product, and get to know the manufacturer behind it. So here's your homework. Look at your current marketing mix as a business. How much of your budget is going to kind of the bottom of the trust ladder versus the top? I'm not saying that you need to stop your digital advertising. It does work for awareness. People need to know that you're around. But make sure that you're also investing in the other channels that actually build trust. Now, some companies often kind of have this 80-20 rule where they actually spend about 80% of their marketing budget on things that build awareness and 20% on things that build trust. And remember, budget isn't necessarily just the money that you spend, it's the time that you put in it as well. I think this should be pushed more towards like 60-40. Find a way to budget your money and your time towards these more trust building materials. I've put together a simple framework that might help you map your trust building strategy. It helps you to analyze your trust kind of building ladder. There's a link in the description. Now, what's your experience with this? Which channels have built the most trust for your business? I'd love to know your experience, and so let me know in the comments. Now remember, in a world of infinite choice, trust isn't just a nice to have, it's your competitive advantage. So go build trust with your customers.